Commander Ta looked at the blue planet on his screen. His ship's sensors showed a cluster of asteroids heading toward Earth. They were big enough to kill millions of people. He checked the readings again and sighed. His orders were clear. Do not help planets that had not joined the Galactic Alliance. Commander, the asteroids will hit in 6 hours, said his second officer. We should move on. Tai drummed his fingers on the control panel. His people had rules about not helping less advanced worlds. Earth was not ready to join the stars, they said. But Ta had watched Earth for 3 years. He had listened to their music, watched their shows, and studied their languages. These people were worth saving. Prepare the gravitational tether, Tai ordered. Sir, that goes against direct orders. I know, Ta said. He stood tall, his blue-tinted skin catching the light of Earth on the view screen. But I cannot watch millions die when we can help. The crew moved quickly. The gravitational tether was new technology, never tested on objects this large. It created an artificial pulling force that could move space objects. As the ship positioned itself between Earth and the incoming death rocks, Ta felt sweat on his forehead. Tether ready, Commander. Activate, Ta said. The ship shook as energy beams shot out, grabbing the asteroids with invisible force. The largest rocks began to change course. The ship's engines screamed in protest. Power at critical levels, shouted the engineer. The ship can't take this strain. Hold steady, Ta said calmly. Just a few more minutes. The ship's walls creaked. Warning lights flashed everywhere. But on the screen, Ta watched as the asteroids moved into a new path that would miss Earth. Then something broke. A loud snap echoed through the ship, and everything went dark. Emergency lights came on as the ship spun out of control. Engine core damage. We're being pulled into Earth's gravity. Ta grabbed his seat as the ship fell toward the blue planet. All crew to escape pods. What about you, Commander? Someone must steer away from populated areas. Go, Tai ordered. The crew escaped as Tai fought with the failing controls. He managed to aim the ship toward a less populated area, somewhere in Asia according to his maps. The ship broke apart as it entered the atmosphere. Tai held on, watching the ground come closer through the cracked view screen. The impact knocked him unconscious. Hours later, Tai woke to smoke and pain. The ship was in pieces. Warning sounds beeped around him as his life support system failed. He could not breathe Earth's air for long without help. Tai tried to reach his emergency kit, but his legs were trapped under broken metal. The air was getting thinner in his chamber. His vision blurred. Then he heard a sound. Something was cutting through the ship's wall. Sparks flew as a piece of metal fell away. A human face appeared in the opening. A young woman with wide eyes and determined expression. Hold on, she said in Korean, a language Tai understood from his studies. I'll get you out. Dangerous, Ta managed to say in her language. Air, poison to me. The woman, Ju was her name, he would later learn, nodded as if she understood. She worked faster, pulling away debris. Somewhere in the distance, Tai heard sirens. Government people coming, Ju said as she finally freed his legs. They will take you away. Study you. I won't let them. With strength surprising for her size, she helped Ta from the wreckage. His breathing mask was cracked, giving him minutes at most. Ju dragged him toward a small truck parked nearby. Why help? Tai asked weakly. Ju looked up at the sky. I saw what happened. The rocks changed course. You saved us. As Ta's consciousness faded, he saw Ju's determined face one last time. I will hide you, she promised. You saved my world. Now I save you. Then darkness took him, and Ta knew no more. 5 years passed since the crash. Ta now lived as Mr. Kim, a foreign language teacher in a small Korean town. His blue skin had been treated with special cream that made it look more human. He wore sunglasses to hide his large eyes. Most people thought he was just a strange man from another country. Every morning, Ta walked to the small school where he taught children. Today, He nodded to the shop owners who waved as he passed. They knew him now. They liked him. Still, Tai was always careful. He knew what would happen if the government found him. "Good morning, Mr. Kim," called Hyun, Ju's brother. He ran a small repair shop and was one of the few people who knew Ta's secret. "Good morning," Tae replied. He still spoke with a strange accent, but nobody questioned it. Hyun fell into step beside him. "Did you see the news? They're testing a new engine based on your ship's parts." Ta nodded. After his crash, government teams had taken most of his ship away. They had been studying the technology for years. Humans were learning fast. Too fast, perhaps. In just 5 years, they had made jumps that should have taken 50. "Your people will build ships soon," Ta said quietly. "Is that bad?" Hyun asked. Ta shrugged. "Depends on what you do with them." They walked past a television store. All the screens showed the same thing. A test of a new aircraft that could reach space. The announcer called it a miracle of science. Ta knew it was just a copy of his ship's landing system. "Come for dinner tonight," Hyun said. "Ju is making your favorite soup." Ta smiled. Ju had saved his life that day of the crash site. She had hidden him in her family's farm until he could survive on Earth's air. She had found medicine that changed his skin color. She was the reason he was alive. "I will come," Ta said. "But first, I must finish something." After teaching his classes, Ta went to his small house at the edge of town. In the basement, hidden under the floor, was his project. It was a communication device made from parts he had salvaged from his uniform. For 5 years, he had been building it bit by bit. He needed to contact his people. As Tai worked, he heard cars outside. He looked through the window and saw black vehicles. Men in suits stepped out. They looked like government agents. Tai quickly hid his device and went upstairs. A knock came at his door. He opened it. "Mr. Kim," a man asked. "We're from the National Science Division. We'd like to ask you some questions." "About what?" Tai asked, trying to sound normal. "About your background. Your papers show you came here 5 years ago. That's when the meteor event happened." Todd felt cold fear. "I don't know about meteors. I am just a teacher." The man smiled, but his eyes were hard. "May we come in?" Before Tai could answer, a loud crash came from down the street. They all turned to look. Hyun had driven his truck into a power pole. Electricity sparked everywhere. "Help!" Hyun yelled. "Someone help!" The agents looked annoyed. "We'll be back, Mr. Kim," the lead man said. They hurried to help with the accident. 10 minutes later, Hyun appeared at Ta's back door. "They're looking for aliens," he said. "Someone reported strange lights from your house. We need to move your stuff." Ta looked at his friend with surprise. "You crashed your truck on purpose." Hyun grinned. "It's an old truck anyway. Come on, let's get your things to our house. Ju is preparing the hidden room." As they packed Ta's communication device, Hyun grew serious. "Why do you stay here, Ta? You could have left." Todd paused. "At first, I stayed because I had to. Now I stay because I want to. You and Ju, you are my friends. On my world, friendship is rare. Here, I found it easily." Hyun put his hand on Ta's shoulder. "Well, friends protect each other. Let's go before those men come back." That night, in the safety of Hyun and Ju's home, Ta looked at the stars through the window. Somewhere up there, his people continued their journey without him. But here on Earth, for the first time, Ta felt he belonged. 10 years had passed since Ta crashed on Earth. The world had changed much in that time. Humans now had ships that could fly to Mars. They had built a small base on the moon, all thanks to the technology from Ta's crashed ship. Ta watched these changes from his small house. Hyun had helped him move back after the government men stopped looking for him. Now in his 50s by Earth counting, Ta had become a respected member of the town. Children loved his stories. Adults asked his advice. No one knew he was from another world except Hyun and Ju. One evening, As Ta sat with Hyun watching the news, something made him sit up straight. Earth's deep space probe has detected unknown objects entering our solar system, said the news lady. Scientists believe these could be ships from another world. Hyun looked at Ta. Is it your people? Tae's heart beat faster. Maybe. Or maybe others. There are many races among the stars. For days, people talked about the coming ships. Some were scared. Some were excited. The news showed people building shelters. Others held signs saying welcome in different languages. Then one night, Tae's homemade communicator beeped. After all these years, it had picked up a signal. Tae listened to the message in his own language. His hands shook. It is my people, he told Hyun. They followed my emergency beacon. They come in peace, but they are confused. Humans should not have space travel yet. They think someone broke the rules. Someone did, Hyun said with a smile. You. Ta nodded. I must talk to your leaders. I must explain. The next day, Hyun drove Ta to the capital city. At first, the guards at the government building would not let them in. But when Ta showed them the strange metal device from his ship, they quickly called their bosses. Soon, Ta sat in a room with high-ranking officials. They looked at him with wide eyes as he removed his special cream, showing his blue skin. I am Commander Ta of the Galactic Enforcement Fleet, he said. 10 years ago, I saved your planet from asteroid impacts. My ship crashed here. The ships coming now are my people. One woman, a minister of science, leaned forward. Why did you save us? Why break your rules? Ta thought for a moment. Because it was right. Because your music made me cry. Because you are worth saving. The room grew quiet. Then a man in a military uniform spoke. What do your people want now? Do they come to attack us for stealing your technology? Ta shook his head. No, but they come to address the debt. What debt? Several people asked. In galactic law, when one saves a species from extinction, that species owes a life debt to the savior. It is our oldest and most sacred law. The officials looked worried. One asked, what does this debt require of us? Before Tai could answer, alarms sounded. On screens around the room, images appeared of huge ships entering Earth's atmosphere. They did not attack. They simply hung in the sky, waiting. They wished to talk, Ta said, to formalize the debt. The president herself came into the room now. She looked at Ta with serious eyes. And what will you ask of us, Commander Ta? What payment will you demand for saving our world? Ta stood tall, his blue skin now fully visible. That, he said, will depend on what I need when the time comes. But know this, I have lived among you for 10 years. I have eaten your food. I have taught your children. I have called some of you friend. He looked at Hyun, who nodded in support. Whatever I ask, Ta continued, it will not harm your world. This, I promise. The president studied him, then offered her hand in the human way of greeting. Ta shook it. Then we acknowledge our debt, she said, and we thank you for saving us. Commander Ta. Above them, the ships waited for Earth's response. 3 days after the ships arrived, a meeting was set. It would happen in a large open field near where Ta had crashed years ago. The world's most important leaders came. They were nervous but tried not to show it. Ta stood with Hyun and Ju as a small ship landed in the field. The door opened and 5 aliens walked out. They looked like Ta, blue skin, large eyes, tall bodies. They wore fancy uniforms with strange symbols. Ambassador Sun, Ta said, bowing to the leader. Thank you for coming in peace. Sun looked at Ta with surprise. Commander Ta, we thought you were dead. You look different. Earth changed me, Ta said simply. Sun turned to the human leaders. We have come to formalize the life debt. This is a serious matter in galactic law. The Earth president stepped forward. We understand Commander Ta saved us from asteroids. We are grateful. Sun nodded. Without his action, your species would be gone. Now you must pay the debt." Fear crossed the faces of many humans. They had worried about this moment. What would these aliens want? Their land, their resources, their freedom. "The terms of payment," Sun continued, "must be set by the Savior." He turned to Ta. "Commander, what do you ask of Earth as payment?" Everyone grew quiet. This was the moment that would decide Earth's future. Ta took a deep breath. "I ask for help," he said. This was not what anyone expected. The humans looked confused. Even the aliens seemed surprised. "My homeworld is sick," Ta explained. "A strange illness is killing my people. Our doctors cannot stop it." He turned to the human leaders. "Your medical science developed differently than ours. You fight disease in ways we never thought of. I ask that you send your best doctors and scientists to help save my world." The room was silent. Then a human woman stepped forward, the head of the World Health Organization. "You want our help, not our resources or land." "Yes," Ta said. "In my years here, I learned that humans are good at solving problems. You think differently than my people. You try new things. You take risks. My world needs that now." The Earth leaders talked quietly among themselves. This was not the terrible demand they had feared. After a few minutes, the president nodded. "We will help you, Commander Ta. We will send our best people to study this illness and find a cure if we can." Sun looked surprised. "You accept these terms?" "We do," said the president. "And we will add one thing more. The humans who go to help will share all their knowledge freely. This debt will be the beginning of friendship between our worlds, not just a payment." Ta smiled. This was what he had hoped for. Sun took out a strange device. It glowed with blue light. "Then let the debt be recorded. Earth owes Commander Ta help in saving his homeworld. When this task is done, the debt will be paid." The device made a humming sound, then went dark. The agreement was official. After the meeting, Hyun found Ta standing alone, looking at the stars. "You could have asked for anything," Hyun said. "Why ask for help?" Tae turned to his friend. "Because I saw what humans can do. You are young as a species, but you solve problems in ways my people never consider." And what?" Han asked. "And I thought it was time our worlds met properly," Ta said. "Not as savior and saved, but as equals who can help each other." Hyun smiled. "So what happens now?" "Now," Ta said, "we put together a team. And I would like you to be part of it." Hyun's eyes went wide. "Me? Go to your world?" Ta nodded. "You were my first friend here. I want you to be the first human my people meet. Will you come?" Hyun looked at the alien ships in the sky, then back at Ta. "Yes," he said. "I will come." 1 month after the meeting, the team was ready. 20 humans had been chosen for the mission. Dr. Min, Earth's best at studying alien life, was the leader. Hyun joined as Ta's personal helper. There were doctors, scientists, and 2 soldiers for safety. They stood before a large ship at the new space center. The ship was called Gratitude, a name picked to show Earth's thanks for being saved. It was built using both human and alien technology. "Are you scared?" Tai asked Hyun as they waited to board. "Yes," Hyun admitted, "but excited too. No human has ever gone this far into space." Ju hugged her brother goodbye. "Come back safe," she said, "and take pictures." The team carried their bags onto the ship. Inside, it was much bigger than it looked. There were rooms for each person, a large lab for the scientists, and a meeting room. The aliens had added strange plants that made fresh air. Dr. Min called everyone to the meeting room. "This journey will take 3 weeks," she said. "We will use this time to learn all we can about the illness on Ta's world." Ta showed them pictures of sick people from his planet. They had dark spots on their blue skin and could not think clearly. Half of his people were already sick. "Our doctors tried everything," Ta said. "Nothing worked. The illness affects our brains in ways we don't understand. The humans asked many questions. Some took notes. Others looked through microscopes at samples Ty had brought. As the ship left Earth's orbit, everyone went to the windows. Their home planet grew smaller and smaller until it was just a blue dot. "It's beautiful," Dr. Min said. "Yes," Ty agreed. "That's why I had to save it." Not everyone on the ship was happy about the mission. One scientist, Dr. Kang, complained often. "We shouldn't have to do this," he told others quietly. "They forced us to help because of some alien law we never agreed to." "No one forced you," Hyun said when he overheard. "You volunteered." "Because my government asked me to," Kang replied. "This debt isn't fair. We didn't ask to be saved." Ty heard this but said nothing. He understood why some felt this way. Change was hard. Trust took time. As the days passed, most of the team grew to like Ta. They asked about his home, his family, and his culture. Tai answered every question and asked many of his own. "Do all humans have families like yours?" he asked Hyun one night. "No," Hyun said. "Some are bigger, some smaller. Some people live alone. Some with many relatives. Humans are all different." "My people are more the same," Ta said. "We follow patterns. It's why this illness is so hard for us. We can't think outside our usual ways." 2 weeks into the journey, Dr. Min made a discovery. "This illness looks like a parasite," she told everyone. "It lives in the brain but doesn't harm humans. Our brains are too different." "Can you kill it?" Tai asked. "Maybe," Dr. Min said. "We need more tests." That night, Ta found Hyun looking at pictures of Earth on his phone. "Do you miss home?" Tai asked. "A little," Hyun said. "Do you? You were away for so long." Ta sat next to his friend. "When I first crashed on Earth, I was very alone. I didn't understand humans. I was afraid all the time." "What changed?" Hyun asked. "You and Ju treated me like a person, not an alien. You shared meals with me. You taught me your ways. You made Earth feel like home." Hyun smiled. "And now you're taking me to your home." "Yes," Ta said, "and I hope my people will learn what I learned. That different doesn't mean bad. That new friends can come from strange places." The ship's computer announced they were halfway to Ta's planet. Both men looked out the window at the endless stars. "I never thought I would see this," Hyun said. "Neither did I," said Ta. "But here we are, together." The ship Gratitude landed on Ta's homeworld after 3 weeks of space travel. As the doors opened, the humans put on special masks. The air here had more gas called methane than Earth. Hyun was the first human to step onto the alien soil. The sky was purple instead of blue. 2 small suns hung in the sky. Tall buildings made of something like glass rose in the distance. "Welcome to Noma," Ta said. "My home." A group of officials waited for them. Most looked sick, with dark spots on their blue skin. Their leader, Director Wu, did not shake hands or smile. "Commander Ta," Wu said coldly, "you have returned with these." He looked at the humans with clear dislike. "These are Earth's best doctors and scientists," Ta said. "They have come to help as payment of their life debt." Wu made a sound like a laugh, but not friendly. "What can these primitive beings do that our doctors cannot? They only left their planet because of your stolen technology." Dr. Min stepped forward. "We may be less advanced in space travel, but our medical science took different paths than yours. Sometimes a fresh view helps." Wu did not seem impressed. "We have prepared labs for you. Work quickly. Half our people are sick, and more fall ill each day." The humans were taken to a large building near the center of the city. Inside were clean rooms with strange equipment. Dr. Min set up her team right away. "Hyun, help me get samples from sick patients," she said. "Dr. Kang, start testing the water and food. Everyone else, set up our equipment." For 3 days, the humans worked almost without sleep. They studied blood samples, brain scans, and food from Ta's world. Ta helped explain things and translate when needed. On the 4th day, Dr. Min called everyone together. Her face was excited. "I found something," she said. "The illness is a neural parasite. It lives in the brain and affects how people think. It doesn't kill them, but it makes them less creative. Can you cure it?" Tai asked. "Maybe," Dr. Min said. "The parasite dies when exposed to certain bacteria that live in human stomachs. We also found some plants on Earth that might work." Hyun smiled. "So Earth can help after all." They took their findings to Director Wu. He listened without expression as Dr. Min explained her discovery. "So you need to bring these Earth bacteria and plants here?" Wu asked. "Yes," Dr. Min said. "We can modify them to work in your people's bodies." Instead of being happy, Wu looked angry. "You want to put Earth life inside our bodies. This is unacceptable." "But it could save your people," Hyun said. Wu stood up. "I have read reports about Earth. You are violent, unpredictable. We will not become dependent on your life forms. Then your people will stay sick," Dr. Min said firmly. "Our own scientists will find another way." Wu said, "This meeting is over. You will hand over all your research to us now." Ta stepped forward. "Director, with respect, this goes against the life debt agreement. Earth has offered valid help. The agreement says they must help. It does not say we must accept their specific help." Wu replied. "Their research will be enough." Guards came to take the humans' notes and samples. Dr. Min tried to protest, but Ta warned her with a look to stay quiet. When they returned to their rooms, everyone was upset. "Why did they even bring us here if they won't use our help?" Dr. Kang complained. "They're afraid," Ta said. "My people don't like outside influences. It's our weakness. We cannot accept new ideas easily." "What do we do now?" Hyun asked. Ta looked out the window at his sick world. In the streets, people moved slowly, many with dark spots showing on their skin. "I must challenge Wu's decision," Ta said. "Under our law, I can demand a public hearing. My people must know there is hope from Earth." "Will that be dangerous for you?" Hyun asked. Ta nodded. "Yes, I will be going against my world's leaders. But I have lived on Earth long enough to know that sometimes one must stand up for what is right." The public hearing took place in a large round building. Hundreds of Ta's people came to watch. Many looked sick with dark spots on their blue skin. The Planetary Council, 12 leaders including Director Wu, sat on high seats. Ta stood in the center with Dr. Min and Hyun. The other humans waited outside. "Commander Ta," said the head counselor, "you have challenged Director Wu's decision. Please explain why." Tai spoke clearly so all could hear. "The humans have found a cure for our illness. Director Wu rejected it without proper consideration." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Wu stood up angrily. "Their cure would put Earth bacteria in our bodies. It is dangerous and untested." Dr. Min stepped forward. "May I speak?" The head counselor nodded. "The parasite in your brains cannot be killed by your medicine," Dr. Min explained. "But certain bacteria from Earth can kill it. We have tested it carefully." "How would this work?" asked a female council member. Dr. Min used simple words to explain. She showed pictures on a screen. The bacteria from human stomachs could be changed to work in Nama bodies. Plants from Earth had chemicals that would help. "The treatment is simple," she said, "and we can make enough for everyone within weeks." The council members talked quietly among themselves. Some seemed interested. Others looked doubtful. Wu kept shaking his head. Then a man stood up from the crowd. "My daughter is very sick," he called out. "Will this Earth cure help her?" "Yes," Dr. Min said. "The sicker patients will get help first." More people stood up, asking questions. Dr. Min answered each one honestly. Sometimes she said, "I don't know," or "We need more tests for that." Her honesty seemed to impress the crowd. Director Wu tried to speak over the noise. These humans are too different. We cannot trust them. An old council member raised her hand for quiet. Commander Te, you lived among these humans for years. Do you trust them? Ta looked at Hyun, then at Dr. Min. With my life, he said. They saved me when I crashed. They hid me from their government. They shared their homes and food with me. And now they offer to save our world. The council talked for a long time. Finally, the head counselor spoke. We will allow a test of the human cure. 100 volunteers will try it. If it works, we will use it for all. Many sick people came forward right away to volunteer. Hope had been rare for too long. Back in the lab, the humans worked day and night. They grew the special bacteria. They made medicine from earth plants. They tested everything carefully. Dr. Kang, who had complained before, now worked hardest of all. When Hyun asked why, Kang said, I was wrong about this mission. These people need us. It feels good to really help. 5 days later, the first patients took the medicine. Everyone waited nervously. Would it work? Had they made a mistake? After 2 days, the first signs showed. The dark spots began to fade on the patient's skin. After 5 days, they could think more clearly. It's working, Hyun told Todd excitedly. The council approved medicine for everyone. The humans taught Nama doctors how to make more. Factories began producing the cure in large amounts. One night, as Tai and Hyun watched the medicine being given to children at a hospital, a man approached them. It was Jin, a scientist who worked with Director Wu. This is wrong, Jin said in a low voice. Taking help from lesser beings breaks the natural order. Some of us will not accept this. The medicine works, Ta said. That is all that matters. Jin's eyes narrowed. Not to everyone. He walked away quickly. Hyun looked worried. What did he mean? Ta frowned. There are always those who fear change. We should be careful. Neither of them saw Jin watching from the shadows, speaking into a small device. They will be at the human compound tonight, he whispered. We must act now, before more take the earth poison. That night, the human team celebrated. The cure was working better than they had hoped. Even the sickest patients were getting better. Dr. Min raised a cup of earth coffee they had brought. To working together, she said. Different worlds, one solution. Everyone cheered. Even Dr. Kang smiled. He had changed his mind about the mission and now worked harder than anyone. Todd looked around the room at the humans who had come so far to help his people. Earth has more than paid its debt, he said. You have saved my world as I once saved yours. Hyun put a hand on his friend's shoulder. That's what friends do. As they talked, a loud boom shook the building. Alarms began to sound. What's happening? Dr. Min asked. Tai ran to the window. Outside, he saw smoke and fire near the medicine factory. People were running and shouting. Someone has attacked the factory, Ta said. The door burst open. Jin stood there with 10 others. They all carried weapons. Stop making your earth poison, Jin shouted. We will not let you change our people. Ta stepped forward. Jin, the medicine is saving lives. Put down your weapons. No, Jin said. We would rather die pure than live contaminated by earth life. Dr. Min tried to explain. The bacteria only kill the parasite, then die themselves. They don't stay in your bodies. Jin wouldn't listen. Silence. We are taking all your research and destroying it. Then you will leave our world forever. Ta moved closer to Jin. Think about what you're doing. Millions will die without the cure. Better to die as ourselves than live as something else, Jin replied. He raised his weapon at Ta. Step aside, traitor. No, Ta said firmly. I will not let you doom our people because of fear. Jin's face twisted with anger. Then you will die first. He aimed his weapon at Ta's chest. Everything happened very fast. Jin fired. Ta saw a flash of light, but instead of feeling pain, he heard a grunt and saw Hyun fall to the floor in front of him. Hyun had jumped between them. Hyun. Ta dropped to his knees beside his friend. Blood soaked Hyun's shirt. The room went silent. Even Jin looked shocked. Dr. Min rushed to Hyun and checked his wound. Her face turned grave. The shot hit near his heart. I don't have the right equipment here to save him. Hyun looked up at Ta. His voice was weak. Are you okay? Yes, Ta said, holding his friend's hand. But why? Why did you do that? Hyun smiled faintly. That's what friends do. Ta felt something he had never felt before, a mix of sadness and anger so strong it hurt. He looked up at Jin and the others. Their weapons had lowered in shock. You see, Ta said loudly, this human gave his life for mine. Is this the act of a lesser being? Is this something to fear? Jin had no answer. Ta bent over Hyun again. Stay with me, friend. We'll get help. Too late, Hyun whispered. Tell Ju, tell her I saw the stars. Tell her it was worth it. Ta knew what he had to do. He placed his hands on Hyun's chest and began to speak in his own language. The words were old, from the most sacred law of his people. What is he doing? Someone asked. Dr. Min watched with tears in her eyes. Some kind of ritual, I think. Tae's hands glowed with soft blue light that spread to Hyun. I, Commander Tae, claim this debt of life. I transfer the obligation from humanity to myself alone. This man has paid in full with his blood what was owed by his kind. Now I owe him, and humanity, a debt that can never be fully repaid. The blue light faded. Hyun's eyes closed. Jin dropped his weapon. You claimed their debt. Took it upon yourself. Yes, Ta said. The most sacred bond possible. Jin fell to his knees. No Nema has done this in 1,000 years. Not for another species. Because no other species has shown such friendship, Ta said, still holding Hyun's hand. No fighting. No more destruction. Get a medical team here now. 1 year had passed since the events on Nama. The cure had worked. The illness that threatened Ta's people was gone. Millions had been saved by earth medicine. Hyun had not died that day. Nama doctors, working with Dr. Min, had saved his life. The wound left a large scar over his heart, but he recovered fully. He became a hero to both worlds, the human who took a shot for an alien friend. The attack led by Jin had failed completely. After seeing Tai take on the life debt himself, most of Jin's followers had put down their weapons. Jin himself was now working with human scientists, studying how different medical approaches could be combined. Today was a special day. Earth and Nama were signing a formal alliance, not as worlds bound by debt, but as equal partners. Ta stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. He wore his commander uniform again, but with a new symbol, half Earth design, half Nama. As Earth's first ambassador to the stars, he had helped both sides understand each other. Ambassador Ta, said the head counselor, please step forward. Ta walked to the center of the room. The hall was filled with beings from many worlds. Humans stood on one side, including Dr. Min, Dr. Kang, and Earth's leaders. Nama people stood on the other side. In the front row sat Hyun and Ju, who had come from Earth for this day. 1 year ago, a debt was owed and paid, the head counselor said. Today, we welcome Earth as the newest member of the Galactic Alliance, not as debtors, but as equals who have proven their worth. Earth's president shook hands with Nama's new leader. Cheers filled the room. Many species had doubted this day would come. Earth was so young compared to other worlds. But the humans had shown great heart and skill in saving Nama. After the ceremony, Ta found Hyun and Ju. How does it feel? Hyun asked, seeing both your worlds finally together. Good, Ta said simply. But I have one more task before this day is complete. He led them to a small ship outside the Great Hall. Inside was a strange crystal about the size of a car. What is it? Ju asked. A memorial, Tai explained. and a message. The crystal glowed with soft light. Inside, words appeared in all Earth languages and Nama's language. To remind all species that debts between friends are not burdens to be repaid, but bonds to be treasured. Hyun read aloud. What will you do with it? It will orbit Earth, Ta said. For 10,000 years, it will shine like a new star in your night sky. Future generations will see it and remember this time when our worlds came together. Ju wiped tears from her eyes. All because you decided to save us from asteroids. Ta smiled. And because you decided to save me from my crashed ship. Later that day, they watched as the crystal was launched into space. From Earth, it would look like a bright blue star, a reminder of what happened when humanity owed a debt and paid it with friendship rather than fear. 6 months later, a strange illness appeared on a distant world called Zur. The Galactic Council was puzzled. Their best doctors could not find a cure. We should ask Earth, Ta suggested at the council meeting. Their medicine is different. They see problems in new ways. Some council members were doubtful. Earth was still so new to space travel. Why would they help? Asked one old council member. They owe no debt to Zur. Ta smiled. They will help because that is what humans do. I have lived among them. They do not need the bond of debt to offer their hand in friendship. And he was right. When asked, Earth sent their best doctors right away. No debt was needed, just the chance to help others and learn something new. As Tai watched the Earth ships leave for Zur, he thought about how one simple choice, to save a planet from asteroids, had changed the galaxy forever. Sometimes, the greatest gifts come from the most unexpected places, and sometimes what begins as a debt ends as something much more valuable. The end.